Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm Brooke Brigham, I'm the attorney.
And I'm Tess Brigham, I'm the therapist.
So today we're going to be talking about a documentary that just came out on Max, formerly HBO Max, formerly HBO.
Yes.
And the documentary is Bama Rush, which is about the sorority recruitment process at the University of Alabama, which I have to say, I don't think that this is typical of anything. This is not how most campuses and Rush, occurs on most campuses in this country. This is an anomaly. And it blew up in the fall of 2021 when all of these girls who were going through Rush, which they now call recruitment, new member recruitment, and what we used to call Rushies, the girls, are now called potential new members or PNMs. It's a lot to remember.
Yes, it is.
And so they started posting a lot of TikToks, and they would do this outfit of the day thing where they'd be like, okay, it's day one. It's, philanthropy day. And, my shoes are from Kate Spade and my skirt is from,
oh my gosh,
wherever,
yeah.
Chanel. I mean, a lot of these brands, I don't even know, but they'd go through their outfits of the day and say where everything was from. And people became kind of obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And, they would post other TikToks showing, like on bid day, when people got their bids for the houses they got into, and people couldn't get enough of it.
Well, and what was the stat? 500 million people? 500 million people watched videos that were connected to the hashtag Bama Rush.
Yeah.
And then it became popular for people to make fun of the Rushies. And then it became, or PNMs or whatever. And then it became a thing of people commenting on these girls and what they were doing. And so it sort of blew up from there. Well, should we talk about our own sorority experiences? Because we are both sorority girls, and both of our parents our father was in a fraternity, our mother was in a sorority. So we're
a Greek family.
We are a Greek family, I will say. But my sorority situation, I will tell you, I don't think I would be accepted in any of those sororities, nor did I want to be with any of those people. Nor do I think they would even want to be my friend. So my experience was radically different than any of this.
So let's talk about...
They featured your sorority many times. Yeah. I saw your sorority.
Yes. So I am a Chi Omega, which is a very, very popular sorority in the South. It's probably one of the
It's a top tier.
It's a top tier.
Yes, we learned about this. It's a top tier.
And at least when I was learning about the sorority, it was the largest women's sorority, in the country. I don't know if it still is. But I went to UC Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara, which is nothing like Alabama. And we had a pretty large, at that time, Greek population. Yeah. It has since gone down quite a bit. But when I rushed, I believe there were 14 sororities. Because I remember the first 2 days of rush, we had to go to 7 sororities on one day and then the 7 the next. And that was a lot.
Yeah.
And our rush week was long. It was this rush week is only 4 days. Ours was a full week and then bid day. It was very, very long. And it was just, obviously, it was very different. And, California is very different.
Yes.
But you were on the East Coast.
I was on the East Coast. I went to Boston University, and I went to a different school my freshman year. So I transferred to BU, and so we didn't have houses. It was very different. And BU's a huge school, and being in Boston, there's so much going on, and there's so many colleges. So Greek life is just one aspect. So it didn't have that feel of like, if you're not part of Greek life, you have no life. It was, for me, I think it's like anything else where it was something that my family did. So it felt like, oh, this is something I know. So let me go try it as a way of making friends.
Did you say what your house was?
Oh, I was a Delta Gamma, which is, again, I could have never been a Delta Gamma at USC or UCLA.
UC Santa Barbara.
Or UC Santa Barbara.
You had to be blonde.
Yes, I had to be blonde and very, very thin, I'm sure, and all of these other things. But at my school, there were 8 sororities, and it was very funny. There were 4 sort of popular sororities. I was part of Delta Gamma. We were one of these 4 popular sororities. And then there were 4 others, 2 that were very Jewish. And that was funny. There were like 2 Jewish sororities and then 2 male Jewish fraternities. And they like all socialized together.
They did their own thing.
They did their own thing. And then there were like 2 kind of nerdy girl sororities. And that was Sigma Kappa, which we meet a girl from that. And then the other one was Tri-Delt, which at BU was kind of nerdy, kind of not, but it's somewhere else. Tri-Delt is a very
in the South,
huge sorority. And in Southern California, it's a huge sorority. But we didn't, like I said, we didn't have houses. We met on campus. We socialized at each other's houses and other things. It was a different kind of life, but it suited me. And it was, and listen, I made all my friends through it. All of the people that I hung out with, lived with, were all interconnected in some way, shape, or form to the Greek life. But I will say, of anyone that I knew, Mom was helping me like pay for clothes and outfits to go through Rush.
It's a big process.
But no one else that I knew really did any of that. Like, because I came from this Greek family, and my family knew that, because Mom was Kappa Kappa Gamma, so which is also a big sorority and well known,
top tier.
Also, we're all in top tier sororities. Because it was well known, she and our mothers, we've talked about this on the podcast, our mother's mother is a Southern Belle. So I think there's part of our mother that's kind of got a Southern Belle inside of her. I think she definitely would give us money and invested in that and believed in doing that. I knew a lot of people in my sorority that literally were like rolled out of bed and was like, okay, I'll just put this on and I'm going to go. There were a lot of people, like Michaela reminded me of a lot of people that were in my sorority. I just felt like there were a lot of Michaelas, and I liked Michaela a lot. She was my favorite person. There were a lot of
she did a lot to prepare. She had the Rush consultant.
Yeah, she did, but her personality was such that I felt like Michaela was just kind of someone that I would really like. She just was kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, do I have to keep smiling for all of this? Yeah. Just someone that I think eventually, she dropped out because I think she just felt like this is too much.
It didn't suit her personality. Yeah.
Sorry, I hate to ruin, spoiler alert, but I'm just saying that I think she would have liked BU sororities. Like, her vibe was a lot more of what we were. And again, East Coast.
Well, and Santa Barbara was pretty laid back in comparison to these other schools, like, USC, UCLA, like, UCSB is much more laid back. And while there was a lot of Greek life, it was not like the be all and end all.
Yes.
And the people in the houses were a lot more normal. Like, you know, I felt like the women in my house were just regular people. And we had a chapter house, which was, you know, they're built in like the 50s. They're sort of this mid-century modern looking. It's not like the big opulent.
Yes. Oh, those houses were beautiful.
Houses in a lot of campuses. But it was fun. I lived in the house for 2 years. I loved it. I pledged as a freshman. So it was my whole college experience.
Yeah.
And I had a very positive experience, and I still feel, you know, very positive about it, which is why when this documentary came out, I thought it was going to be more fun, you know, because the way that they promoted it was like a peek inside, you know, the process of recruitment. And it really wasn't that.
Well, but I do want to say that I don't know if I thought it was going to be all fun, because I do remember feeling those feelings of, you know, being rejected by people, feeling like, you know, not.
You have to put on a show.
You have to put on a show, putting on a performance, feeling judged for how you look, feeling, you know, I definitely did not I felt rejected by certain people. I felt like, you know, I was dismissed in certain ways, and it wasn't all just showy and easy. Like, yes, I think now that people are on the other side, I think it's like anything in life. It's like dating and then getting married, right? Once you're married and you can see like, oh yeah, you'll find your person, you'll be okay. But the process of dating and going through all that's hard. And so I do think the process of putting yourself out there to try to connect with people is really hard. And sometimes you are rejected, and wanting to belong and being seen, especially with women, because that part is hard, is really difficult.
Yeah. And, you know, really the Rush process is pretty superficial because you get to spend so little time. You know, you especially in those first few days where you're going to all these houses, and you'll have like, I mean, like these parties, they were like maybe 30 minutes.
Yes.
And so there'd be like a kind of intro, you know, where all the girls, you know, run out of the house and sing a song. And then by the time everybody gets inside, and they use a rotation system. You have like a Rush group.
Yes.
And you rotate, and you all talk to the same people. And you have to transition like every 5 minutes, because you've got to talk to like five
it's like
women.
Speed dating.
It is speed dating. But there's no bell. You have to make it look natural. Like you practice doing what they call transitions, where you know, you see Susie approaching, you know she's there to bump you, and you go on to the next person, and you have to figure out a way to make it look natural, like to bring her into the conversation and leave her with that point and then leave. Yeah. It's really hard. It's stressful.
Well, when we did it, we had a thing where we would come out and we would get matched with someone. So you were sort of matched with a person. And then we had some people who basically, we would make them floaters because they were not good conversationalists. So we would have to make them floaters. So some of us who were good conversationalists, myself included, were always matched with people. And so that was part of the problem, is if you're not, you know what it is? You have to be good at,
you have to be good at small talk.
You have to be good at cocktail party talk. And I've always been good at cocktail party talk. People ask me, and I said, part of my job is I'm really good at that. Like, where are you from? What do you do? Tell me a story of your life. You know, and it's so funny. Over the years, I cannot tell you how many people have thought that I've wanted to join their religion.
Because you act interested.
Yeah, because I've been really interested, or they thought that I've been really interested in their marketing services, or I've been interested in them, or interested in all that stuff. Because I can kind of ask you a ton of questions, because I ask questions for a living. I can kind of do that thing really well, but that's a big part of it, is you have to be good at that. And what's hard is and think about this, 18, 19-year-old girls, if you're not very good at that, that is hard.
Well,
and so,
like that Michaela.
Yeah. And that is not her strong suit.
She's an introvert, and she's soft-spoken. She would have had a hell of a time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When I was I am an introvert, and I was pretty unsophisticated going into Rush. But by the time I went through it and then went through it as an active, 3 more times, I could make small talk with anybody. I could, anywhere, anytime. Yeah. It is a good skill.
It is.
To have,
it is a very good skill.
And you really do have to hone in on those skills. But as a Rushy or a PNM, whatever they call them, it's a lot.
Yes.
It really is. It's a lot.
It is. So anyway, we've been chatting about this. People are like, I don't care about the two of you and your things.
About you and your
stupid sorority lives.
Well, okay, so the film starts out introducing us to the various women that are going to be profiled, and it's October of 2021, and it's 10 months until Rush.
Yes.
Rush 2022.
We've got lots of time.
And we're already, preparing.
Yes, Shelby from Illinois is already approaching. She is already prepping.
She has a binder.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? If you are trapped on a desert island, you want Shelby there. Because Shelby's got a binder.
Just a binder and a bag. That has everything wet naps.
Yes, you want Shelby in an emergency. You really do.
Yeah.
Yes. So we meet Shelby. Well, so should we just talk about all the girls that we're going to meet?
Yeah. And we can talk more about them.
Yeah. Well, because we do, or should we talk also about this film? Because I was a little nervous because I started seeing rumblings on social media about how people were talking about this documentary not being very good. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, Lordy. And there are some issues.
You have to lower your expectations. I think people had very high expectations for this. And I watched it twice.
Oh, you did?
I did. Because I wanted to watch it first without having to take any notes. Mm-hmm. Just take it all in. And then I watched it a second time and took notes. And, it was starting to grow on me. There's still problems with it. But I kind of think this filmmaker had a pretty impossible task because, first of all, she did not get any real inside.
Yeah, she didn't get the access that I think maybe she was hoping for, or
that people thought it was going to be.
Yes,
because they talked about, they were going to pay people to go through Rush, and they were going to be mic'd, which they discuss in the film. That wouldn't have even worked even if it happened. And it's true, when you're in one of these sorority parties, it is so loud.
Yes.
It's a room full of 100 women talking, and you have to yell just to be heard. You never could have recorded anything. That never would have worked. But she wasn't even trying to do that. But somehow it got out there that that's what the assignment was.
Yes. And so there was all of this. Yes, she was never going to live up to the hype. But then the problem is she then inserted herself into the documentary. And a lot of people didn't like that. And I do understand the point she was trying to make, but she didn't really tie it together very well. I do understand the point that she was making, but it really does take you out of this larger thing. I think that if the documentary was about this concept of belonging, I think I would like to see this piece of what does it mean to belong, and I do appreciate that what she did profile and show people, and I hope people see this, is that people can see that being a young woman in the world today is effing hard. Really, really hard. I think being a young woman in general has always been hard.
It's always been hard.
It's always been hard. But being a young woman in the world that we live in today is so hard. And you can see from this documentary what these young women go through of just the pressure and just, God, what are you doing in your spare time? Now you got outfits of the day and you're having to do TikToks to be relevant and just the pressures. And then, oh gosh, I'm getting roofied and being roofied's a part. And I have clients who tell me about this constantly. Being roofied is just an average part of your day. Being sexually assaulted is a regular part of a young woman's life. It's just the difficulties, the anxiety, the depression, the pressures,
eating disorders,
the eating issues. I'm not saying all of these things were present when I was in school, but I just think that they're magnified because of social media, because of the world that we live in, to the nth degree.
Well, it's just an added layer of like what you have to do to survive.
Yes.
Because you have to be able to use and navigate social media to survive as a young woman, and especially in this situation. And all of these young women who they profiled, they all seem to be pinning their hopes on, if I can just get in to a top tier house, then I'll feel like I belong. I'll feel like I have a purpose. I'll know what to do with my life. And it's like,
especially
it
Isabel.
just doesn't work that way.
Oy.
Like none of you are supposed to know what you're going to do with your life. That's the point. You're not supposed to, and you're not expected to or required to.
Yeah.
So get that out of your head.
Yeah, that's the part that is so hard, is they all feel all of these feelings that you're supposed to feel, and they keep searching, desperately looking for, and it feels like, oh, getting into the sororities, the answer. I'm so desperate. When I get to Alabama, getting into the University of Alabama is the answer. Okay. Getting into this sorority, this top tier sorority, this is the answer. Once I get there, this is, these feelings will go away. And it's like, no, you're absolutely right. Because you are supposed to feel this way.
Yeah, because for sure, Shelby and Isabel both specifically went there for this experience.
Yes.
They applied to Alabama to get in to go through sorority rush. I mean, that's a lot. I'm not sure about the other two because they're sophomores. But so we talked about Shelby.
So Shelby's from Illinois, and she was adopted, and her adoption, she talks more about it later, but her being adopted is a huge part of her identity.
She has abandonment issues.
Yes.
And then Isabel.
Isabel.
She's from Rancho Cucamonga here in California. And she says she's going to Alabama because of TikTok. And she needs to be a part of something because she doesn't know who she is. And again, welcome to the club.
Well, and also, you just meet Isabel. She's got the Jesus love. She's got crystals. You can see she is just trying to hold on to anything to figure out, who am I,
Yeah. So then there's two women who are already, like I said, they're sophomores.
Yeah.
So
I guess they're freshmen now. They're going to rush as sophomores.
They're going to rush as sophomores.
Yeah.
So Holiday and Michaela. And Holiday actually pledged a sorority
Delta
last
Zeta.
year.
Yeah.
But she got kicked out before she was initiated. She got kicked out for wearing another sorority's stickers.
I don't know what that means. What's a sorority sticker?
So, okay, most schools have a rule, or most, not schools, but most sororities have a rule where you cannot wear the actual Greek letters until you're till you're initiated. You can't have the sweatshirts with the Greek letters. You can have stuff that's written out. Like you could write out, Chi Omega, but at least that's what it was for us. And it was a big deal when you got initiated. You could finally wear the sweatshirt with the big,
sounding familiar
with
now.
the big letters. So what they do for the pledges is, because the big thing is all the houses go to every football game, and what they'll do is they'll have these stickers that say, Delta Zeta loves Alabama, roll tide, or whatever. And so it's a sticker with Delta Zeta written out. So it's like a way to show you're a Delta Zeta pledge, you're a Greek person, whatever. So I guess they accused her. Who knows if it's even true? They could have just not liked her and were looking for a reason to get rid of her.
That's the other thing. There's a lot of you get a group of women together. I hate to say it.
And that's the thing. In these sororities have so many rules that you can commit an infraction of a rule so easily and inadvertently. And if they like you, they'll let it slide. If they don't like you, then that's what they use to get rid of you.
Yeah. Just like anything else in life, just like any politics of anything else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at a job, anywhere else.
So, and both Holiday and Michaela share they both lost their fathers when they were young. Their fathers died. And Michaela is biracial. And so she has that whole issue.
I was like, when I saw her, I was like, finally, we're seeing the first person of color that we've seen the entire time. We get more into that later on. But I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. But she definitely already feels
alien. Yeah.
She's
different.
Very, very different. This is a, very, very white school. So let's see and then there's a character who comes in a little bit later. Her name is Ryan.
Yes.
And she's Sigma Kappa, and she's an active, we think.
Yeah,
I think she's
she is.
still in the sorority. And she's biracial also, and so she has issues with that too. And she said that it was sort of unclear why she agreed to do this, because she kept saying that she really loved her sorority sisters and that they were like the best people that she knew. And she knew that they all cared about her and wanted the best for her. But she kind of thought that a lot of the stuff with the rules and all that was oppressive. And she said that there were women in her sorority who really didn't get the racial issues that she faced and would make comments to her like, not, the kind of covert racism, and that really bothered her. And so she seemed kind of conflicted.
Yeah. I got the sense that she loved the sorority and wanted to be part of the sorority, but she felt like there needed to be more freedom to speak your mind.
Right.
And maybe this is
more education.
Yeah. And I think this is why she wanted to do this documentary, and with the idea of, hey, if I'm in trouble, I'm in trouble. So this is how it's going to be. So,
and then let's just introduce a couple more characters here. So there's two, actually, I think there might be three.
Yeah, are you talking about the Rush consultants? Yeah, we meet Trish. Is it Addicts? She's a Rush consultant.
Trisha. Yeah.
Trisha.
Yeah, so Trisha, I found her very odd because Trisha is my age. She pledged Chi Omega, same as me, same year.
Oh, really?
1987. And I'm like, you are not qualified. Trisha, with all due respect, why are you, who are you to be
but
giving advice to these 18, 19-year-olds?
She might be if she's been doing, but if you're still involved in Greek life, then if you've still got your finger on the pulse.
Well, but later on in the documentary, so Michaela ends up hiring her as a consultant. And later on in the documentary, Trisha goes clothes shopping.
Yeah,
with
that
her
was not good.
And takes her to like a middle-aged lady dress shop and has her trying on these things. And it made her look, it wasn't age appropriate. It wasn't cool. Then she took her to a white lady hair salon where these ladies were trying to tell her, because she had straightened her hair.
Yes.
And she'd kind of lightened her hair.
Yeah.
She's trying to kind of get more of the look.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah.
And they took her to a white salon, and this middle-aged...
Are you talking about that woman that was putting those things in her hair?
She was trying to tell her, do this and it'll help with the frizz in your hair. And she was trying to show her how to put these like twisty things in. And then she took them out, and her hair was even more frizzy. It was like, because you don't know what you're talking about. Like, and I was just like, this is not good for her. I don't know. I think Trisha should retire from Rush Consulting. But.
Well, the one thing I did think was, she did say, well, I'll take photos of you. And then I thought, Michaela's a very pretty girl, but wouldn't you want to zhuzh her up a little bit? She just kind of came over and had her hair back and just regular clothes. I was like, zhuzh her up a little, like put her in a pretty top.
Is she's supposed to be using these as her official Rush photos?
Right. Like, have her get her hair and makeup done or do something and then have her come back. I thought that was weird, but yeah. Trish was very low energy. Yeah. And I don't think that was a good match. I mean, energy-wise, she had the same energy as Michaela. She kind of, anyway, yeah.
And then there's Sloane, who was Isabel's Rush consultant. And Sloane, I don't know. Also, I mean, she's younger. She's probably in her 30s, maybe, like low 30s. But I don't know. She seemed to be a little... I wasn't impressed with her. Yeah. And there was someone named Lori. I can't remember if anybody worked with her or they just interviewed her.
Yeah. I don't know if I wrote anything down about her.
Anyway.
It was, this is really interesting, these Rush consultants, because I don't think that was a job way back when.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot on the line here. It's just like now how people hire college
Yes.
consultants for their kids,
Yes.
because they're so desperate to make sure their kids get into the best college. And if you want to get into the best sorority, I guess you have to have a Rush consultant.
But we learn a bit about Alabama and what we were talking about earlier about how like Greek life is huge there. And there's tons of money. Tons of money is sunk into football. Tons of money is sunk into this campus, which is gorgeous. These houses are gorgeous. Mm-hmm. The whole campus is really beautiful, very lovely, I have to say.
I don't remember seeing much of the campus other than the football stadium and the sorority row.
Well, I don't know. Everything looked really beautiful to me. I was like, wow, this is really nice. They do sink. I mean, we all hear about Bama and Bama football, and isn't that Crimson Tide and all of that? Roll Tide and all of that kind of stuff.
But also, too, they pay for this. Did you see the part where they said that the average cost for a new pledge the first year is $8,300?
Yeah, I don't know. How much did it cost? I don't remember how much it cost way back when.
I don't know, a few $100 or so. I mean, there are fees and you have to pay dues and whatever, but nothing like that.
Yes. So then, and so this is where the filmmaker kind of loses me, because there's lots of scenes of things that don't really tie in. I think the filmmaker's trying to give us sort of pieces of the people, but there's a lot of scenes of things that we don't really need to see, that don't really add anything. And I mean, this is a 2-hour documentary that really could have been 75 minutes to 90 minutes.
So what are you talking about, like the historical stuff? Or?
No, not the historical stuff. I just feel like watching it, I'm like, okay, this scene could have been cut out. Like, I didn't write it down, but there were a lot of scenes, like little sections of like, okay, this could have been cut out, and this could have been cut out, and this could have been cut out. And like, well, what's the point? Like, just feeling a little bit of like, well, what's the point of this? What's the point of this? What's the point of this? And then we get into meeting 2 active members of a current sorority. What sorority were they in?
It's they call them Zeta. It's not Delta Zeta. It's like Zeta Tau Alpha, ZTA. Yeah. Zeta Tau Alpha.
And they're answering questions about what it's like to be in this current sorority and what it's like in Rush and so on and so forth. And then we see them, they have to adjust something. And then we see one of the girls ask the filmmaker questions about her.
She said, do you have to put sunscreen on your head? And up until this point, we haven't seen the filmmaker
at all. And
her name is Rachel Fleet. So yeah, the young woman is asking her, do you have to put sunscreen on your head? And she's like, yeah, or else I'll get really sunburned. And then I don't know how long thereafter it's revealed we see the filmmaker, and she's bald because she has alopecia. And she talks about how, growing up, she wore wigs and, which is terribly uncomfortable. And she was always afraid, that someone was going to find out that she was wearing a wig, and she would have different wigs every year. And then when she got into college, she said she thought that she could, maybe start over and like be herself and not have to wear a wig, but she couldn't bring herself to do it her first year. But then eventually, I guess her second year, she did. She just decided, I can't live like this anymore. And she would have to wear a wig to bed at night because she had a roommate in the dorms, and she didn't want to be seen without her wig. And it was really sad. And then she was trying to make the point that experience that she went through was like her rush, meaning it was her, wanting to belong, wanting to fit in. So she's trying to draw this parallel, and it was very awkward because I was thinking, well, that's a great story, but I don't know if you should have inserted yourself into this.
Because it's not a really smooth transition, and we learn this story, and it's not in one. We see it in chunks, and it kind of feels like. This is what it felt like to me, that she was trying to find places of, okay, this is a good moment. I'll tell this story. Okay, here, I'm going to insert this story of like, okay, good. I think she had a moment of an aha of, oh, she asked me about the sunscreen. This might be, maybe oh, maybe my story kind of fits in. And she got that locked in her head, and no one told her, you know what, maybe you shouldn't insert yourself. You need to take yourself out, because it wasn't a cute, lots of documentary filmmakers insert themselves into the stories, but this just didn't work. Like, do a documentary on alopecia.
Yeah, or your story.
Yeah. That would be a great story. I mean, with the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock slap thing, you capitalize on that and talk about alopecia.
Yeah.
But why here? This made no sense whatsoever at all.
Yeah.
But then we meet, and we met this woman earlier, Elizabeth, or did we meet? Yeah, Elizabeth Boyd, the PhD, which I thought was really interesting. She's talking about this idea of the Greek system and how all of this works in sororities and fraternities, and how, we've been doing this forever. And this idea of sororities, because what Ryan talks about is she's in this sorority Sigma Kappa, which is not considered a top tier house, and how we organize ourselves into places of power, status, prestige, and femininity. And that sororities, just like anything else in life, has a ranking system, and that the ranking system is determined by men, the fraternity system, and who they want to socialize with. And who they want to socialize with are the prettiest girls. And that's how it all works. And when you're in a top tier sorority, you get the best test banks, you get the best connections, you get the male gaze, there are benefits to that.
Yeah, you get the most parties with, because the way it worked at my school, we called them TGs, short for TGI Fridays. And so each house has a social chair, and they reach out to the other social chairs, and they plan these parties where it's like just one sorority and just one fraternity have a party at the fraternity house. And and if you, we would always like make the hottest girl in our house the social chair, because it's true. It's like, because then she goes and she talks to the fraternity social chair, and and they decide if they're gonna. It's again, the men decide if you're worthy of having a party with them, having a TG with them, and it's such bullshit.
Yeah. But it's also, but again, it's sort of this society and the way it works of anything else in life, which is you are, you're attractive, or how to socialize because you're part of this family, because you have the right clothes and the right network, and the right people. So you get in this top tier. So you get the right tests. So you meet the right people. So, right.
Yeah. So then you have the best connections, and you get the best jobs.
Exactly.
It's all about like working up to, basically being a wealthy person after you leave college. So you meet the right person who's together. You're going to,
power couple.
That's what all of those top tier sorority and fraternities are. They're just building up like generational wealth and keeping it going and bringing people together. And it's like, okay.
So, and then they get into a little bit of this code of conduct and the code of conduct of the houses and what it means. They get into that, like, you can't drink in the house, you can't wear, and that was the whole thing, right? When you were when you were pledging, you couldn't drink with your pin on. Yeah. That was always a big
your
thing.
Letters
or
on.
Your letters on. Yeah. I remember those things.
And they did lecture us. When I say they, I'm talking about like we had, the advisors and corporation boards and all these people who would always, those old ladies who would always come and lecture us about how, if you're going to wear your letters, like make sure you look your best and you have your hair is done and you have some makeup. I mean, that even at, my laid back school, there was that pressure, people saying that.
And it's always this thing of, right, like it's always about the women. It's always us.
Yeah, we have to look right. But
look good.
Guys, they can
because
just
these
do
boys,
whatever.
The boys can do whatever and be whatever. And boys will be boys, but you've got to keep it together and be pretty.
Keep it classy.
But, this was the part where Isabel's meeting with Sloan and she's telling her the 5 Bs.
Oh, I know. God.
These are my favorite. The 5 Bs. Boys. You can't talk about boys unless they bring it up. It's all about, you can't initiate this conversation. You can't talk about boys, booze, Bible, Bucks or Biden, which is politics essentially.
Well, that's always been the forbidden topics. Yeah. Sex. You don't talk about sex, politics, money, drugs. You know, religion. Yeah. That's kind of a cardinal rule of life, I think.
But then this is when Isabel worries me. I mean, and then Isabel continued to worry me. Thank God she has a therapist. When she mentioned she had a therapist, I'm like, oh, thank God. Isabel continues to, I fear for her. But she kept talking about how, what if I have panic attacks during my conversations? And then she gets into this whole thing about being bullied in her locker room that developed into this eating disorder. And this whole time I'm thinking, is this really the best thing for you, Isabel? Where are your parents? Why isn't anybody intervening for Isabel? Like, is really traveling 3,000 miles away across the country to Alabama, of all states, to a place that I don't know. Do you have any family there? And to go through Rush? Is this really what's best
She
for
thinks
you?
it's going to solve all her problems.
She really does. And I'm just kind of like, Isabel.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the filmmaker comes and she tells a locker room story. I'm like, oh my God, I can't take this.
I know. This was a dark documentary in many places. Dark.
And then we learn about the machine.
Oh,
dun, dun, dun. You want to talk about the machine?
I didn't even know about the machine. So there is this institution called the Machine, and it's like a secret society. It's called Theta Nu Epsilon. And basically every sorority and fraternity on the campus has like delegates that go to these secret meetings, and they all, I'm not exactly sure who's running. I'm sure it's one of the fraternities. I'm sure the fraternities like share the responsibilities of organizing all this stuff. But people, they have these delegates from the sororities, and they go to these meetings, and basically everyone is told how they should vote on anything that's happening at the University of Alabama, whether it's homecoming queen or student body government candidates. And then they go back to their chapters and they tell all their members, okay, this upcoming, student body government election, you have to vote for these people, these candidates, and you have to screenshot your vote and send it to us to prove that you voted. So basically they control the school and like everything that happens in the school. And they all come from, again, these are very old families, old money, lot of power, alumni, these generations of people who've gone to Alabama. And it's all very secret and done in secrecy. And they had a woman, I forget her name, who was one of the delegates. And then she basically wrote an expose in the school newspaper exposing the whole thing. And I assume she probably must have gotten kicked out of her chapter. But yeah, she told the whole story and how it works and everything. And I was like, wow, I'd never heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
And people are afraid of them. Like they asked, the filmmaker asked Holiday and Michaela, have you ever heard about the Machine? And they're like, we're not going there. We're not talking about it. Not going to do it.
And everybody they asked, the two active members of the sorority, they wouldn't comment on it. Nobody would comment on it. Nobody. Right. Not one person.
Yeah. So because they, there was that guy, John Archibald, the journalist, who also has been covering this and corroborated all of this. The woman who, Alex, I think was her name. She was a Phi Mu. She's alumni now, but she's a former Machine student rep. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and then then it moves on to like, Shelby created a sorority resume. Now we're moving on to something else. Now, this is another thing that's very different. I did not have to create a resume. Did you have to do any of this? I did not have a resume. I did not have a headshot. Yeah. I did not have to do a video. I did not have to do anything.
Video didn't really
it didn't exist back then. Yeah.
I remember having to do a resume type thing or filling out some kind of application and having to send in some pictures. So the way that it worked So every new member has to have a recommendation from somebody. You know, when you go through Rush, you're supposed to have a recommendation for every single house.
Oh.
And if you can't find one, if you don't, then there's these women who, we even had one in Ukiah. She's the one, I gave her all my information and I told her, okay, I can get recommendations for these houses, but I don't know anyone in these houses. And basically what they do is they find someone in the community who knows you, like, through your parents or through a teacher or something. And they track people down and they get you a recommendation for every single house that you're going to be rushing. And they have a name, they're called Panhellenic something. They have some kind of name. And so I remember there was a woman in Ukiah who did that for me. And I gave her, you know, whatever information. And I remember you have to give, pictures. Like, you usually just give like your graduation picture or something, but there is a process, and then the alumni will, they'll do a recommendation for you. They'll say how they know you, and whatever. I've never actually seen a rec form. I've never been asked to write one or anything. So, but yeah, it is a thing. But obviously, there's people who don't have that, don't know that ahead of time, don't have a connection, and so I don't know what they do in that situation. I mean, I don't know, do they have to like search out and find someone, or can they just let you in without a recommendation? I don't really know.
Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, I must have filled out some paperwork, but I don't remember having to do that. Definitely I didn't think we had to do that at all. At all. So, but that's all new. Those little fancy sorority headshots and the videos and all of that was new.
Yeah.
And so then they start talking about how, I guess, there's the way the sororities work or how things have been at Alabama, that the first time they integrated sororities there was in 2013.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah, pretty recent.
And then, when they say they integrated, I mean, does that literally mean that Black women were not allowed to rush the Panhellenic sororities?
I don't know, but apparently,
that seems impossible to me. But yet at the same time, I don't know.
I don't know, or was it? So they have this other thing called Divine Nine.
Yeah, so those are all the predominantly Black sororities.
Maybe it was like until 2013. Black women just didn't even feel comfortable rushing.
Well, it sounded to me like they were using words like desegregated and integrated. It sounded to me like Black women weren't allowed to rush Panhellenic sororities.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because like the Divine Nine, they've been around forever. Like, even predating the Panhellenic sororities. And I thought it was interesting that Ryan said that she didn't feel like she belonged in a Black sorority because she was raised by white people. She's half white. And that was an interesting point.
And I feel like Michaela said something somewhat similar, right? That's how she felt as well.
Yeah, she said that she feels like a black sheep. She said people don't even believe she's Black. They look at her and they think you must be something else, and she's like, no, like, I don't know how many times I have to say it. It's very weird. They barely got into the racial issues, which are many, obviously.
Yes. I mean, that's a whole documentary within itself, for sure.
Exactly.
I mean, they barely touched on it. And that's why I think the documentary had so many things to talk about and do. I think that was the part that was really hard. And then they get into this thing, we're back to Holiday and Michaela, and they're, going out, and they were going to a frat party, but then we see them eating first, and they're talking about how they feel fat, and you're like, Michaela, you're not fat. Holiday, you're not fat.
I know. They're talking about how many calories are in there.
And then they go to this frat party, and then we see Holiday, and Michaela had to go to the emergency room because they got roofied, which... If there's any young listeners out there, watch your drinks. This happens. I have so many clients who get roofied. It is so common. And Holiday talks about being roofied three times.
Yeah, it's just very sort of matter of fact about
because it happens all the time. I had a client who went to University of San Francisco. She talked about how she and her friends, they got roofied all the time.
Oh my God.
All the time. It happens constantly. I can't even tell you how often it happens. It's unreal.
Good Lord.
I mean, they see young, attractive girls and it happens. People do this. Don't let men buy your drinks. Don't.
Well, going back to this.
Sorry.
No, I'm just looking
my roofied.
No, I know. It's good information.
Yeah.
But going back to the segregation thing, I just saw some notes. So remember there was a woman who they interviewed, Deidre, who she was the 1986 homecoming queen. She actually beat the machine candidate. She was there from 83 to 87 undergrad, then went to law school 87 to 90. And she was talking about how she was in Alpha Kappa Alpha, and they were the first sorority to integrate sorority row. So maybe that's what they mean, that because they have the sorority row, and they show the pictures of the Alpha Kappa Alphas like moving into this house, and maybe that's what they meant, that it wasn't until 2013 that they were allowed to have a house or even have the Divine Nine. I don't know. That part was,
but I feel like
not
what they meant.
Well.
I feel like what she meant was that 2013 was when Black women were allowed, and I think that was. I don't know because they used the word desegregation. They said Alabama only desegregated in 2013. So I would have liked that explained better. Yes.
Oh, and then Deidre just says that one night they were coming home to their house on Sorority Row, and there was a burning cross on the front lawn. Okay, now, mind you, she was there in the 80s, late 80s until 1990. This is not like a long time ago.
No, it's not.
But that's before 2013. So I don't know. I'm so confused by that.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Okay. All right. So now we're back to Shelby and about how poor Shelby accidentally found out she was adopted.
That's a horrible story.
It's a horrible story. And then we go back to Shelby and we learn that she's been in therapy since she was 13 and that she's being treated for her trauma and her anxiety and depression. And I think we're going back to, Isabel, who wears all of her anxieties and depression and all of this really outwardly. Shelby, kind of outwardly shows you this person who seems to be very much in control and bubbly and happy, but you're learning underneath that is someone who is deeply anxious, and the binders and all of this stuff is showing you that she's not fine. That Shelby is not as put together as we think she is. Well, that she is struggling.
She is struggling, and she's barely containing it because she makes a lot of comments about how she says, "I thought I knew who I was, but then it completely changed, and I just want a fresh start." Again, thinking that this is going to be the cure to all of her anxiety.
So we're starting to see that Shelby's a little bit closer to Isabel than we thought she was. And then we're kind of back to Rachel talking about her experiences, and then Michaela and Holiday break up as friends, which is very upsetting. We don't quite understand.
Well, Holiday accuses Michaela of talking shit about her, and she's mad because she says all she wants to do is hang out with Kappas because she wants to get into that sorority. So I don't know.
So then Holiday overhears some women talking, and she decides not to rush because I think she feels like she's gotten kind of blackballed. So she's like, well, forget it. I'm not going to go through all this and spend all this time and money and do it. And then it was interesting. I think it's Rachel who asks this question of one of the Rush consultants about what happens if, because she was asking the Rush consultants, and I think it was Trisha, around, so you're showing up to these things, you want to look nice, you want to look presentable, you want to stand out, but you don't want to stand out too much, right? You want to, you want to look like you, and you want to be unique in a way, but you don't want to be too unique. But what if you automatically stand out? She was basically saying, what if you're me? What if you're bald?
Or what if you're black?
Yeah. What if you're black? What if you're in a wheelchair?
Exactly.
What if you have a disability? What if you stutter? What if what if you do? And it was interesting. Trisha really did not have an answer for that. And I think that because Trisha didn't have an answer for it, what she really is saying is it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
It is a problem.
If you stand up, if you're really overweight, if you're, I don't know, anything, if you do not fall into one of these categories, it is a problem that you are going to be somebody that is...
Yeah, you're going to have a hard time.
You're going to have a hard time, yeah, basically. So anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we meet Shelby on TikTok in her Rush bag.
Yeah.
That famous Rush bag. And then all of a sudden it's 2 days before Rush. We've just now fast forwarded.
Yeah. Isabel is in her dorm room with her crystals.
Yeah. Ugh. And this whole thing. Oh my God.
Oh, and then she says 2 weeks before coming to Alabama, she was sexually assaulted.
And so this was, and then I'm thinking, why? I mean, I guess she just decided she was going to go. I mean, maybe she didn't tell her. She had to have told her parents. She's telling all of us, but I don't know. I don't know if a parent, I would let my kid go. I guess you let her go. I don't know.
Well, why wouldn't you let her go?
I don't know. I just feel like, I guess, I don't know. I just feel like Isabel, I felt like was hanging on by a thread. And then all of this happens.
Well, but she powered through. I mean, she's here. She's here. She's doing it. I just felt like of all the things to happen to Isabel, this was the last thing. I mean, she was already hanging on by a thread. Yeah. So then we see Shelby and her roommate. They're walking down Sorority Row, looking at the houses. This is before Rush has started. And then, this is around the time where the rumors come out about the documentary. And there was a New York Times article about it. And the University of Alabama president was very upset, and he's writing letters to people or whatever. So basically, immediately now, Shelby is like, I'm not going to let anything jeopardize my plan. And so she pulls out of the documentary. But Isabel stayed in, which I thought was interesting, because obviously she could have pulled out too.
Yeah.
But I guess she wasn't. I don't know how she explained the whole thing to the sorority when she got in. But she didn't say anything or do anything to hurt them. You know what I mean? She was excited. She was happy. She got her first choice house, and I don't know, but.
Yeah. So this is where the documentary becomes very meta, because essentially we're watching this documentary talk about the documentary that's never really made, of this rumor that's, of all of this. And then we see Rachel again sort of addressing what's happening about these rumors. And then there's, of course, who started these rumors? Who are the people that started these rumors?
Yeah.
Was it the machine? If we can be real conspiracy theorists. And then she starts getting, I guess, threats, and they're worried about her physical safety. So
who was getting threats? Oh, Rachel, the filmmaker.
So what does Rachel do? She puts on a wig, people. She puts on a wig. That was so weird. It was like, your whole thing is about belonging and being part of something. So now you're going to put on a wig to hide?
I don't know. At that point, I was over Rachel. I was just like...
I'm like, Rachel, what is going on here? And then we learned that Michaela decided to drop... Michaela, I guess, did it for a day or two.
Yeah, and she dropped out after a few days.
And I think Michaela kind of found, I don't really like any of these people.
Well, and also, it's not her.
Yeah.
She's so... introverted, and I can't imagine her in those big huge houses with all those girls making small talk. I mean, I can't imagine. But and then we get to bid day, which is where everybody finds out what sorority, if they got into their sorority. I don't know how they do it. because early on they did say that it's possible that you can just be dropped from every house. That was not the case at Santa Barbara. If you stayed in the process, you were guaranteed a house. It might have been your last choice, but you're guaranteed. So I guess, this seems really, and what about the people who, I guess potentially you could get dropped on the last day, like you could not get a bid, or you could be very upset. Anyway, they all gather in the football stadium.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah, they're in the football stadium. And I mean, can you imagine the emotions in there?
Yeah.
And they all open their bid at the same time. But I was noticing that outside of the stadium, lining the streets and lining the streets of Sorority Row, there's parents there and family members there and boyfriends are there, with like roses, I guess, ready to give to the, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is a family affair. There are parents there. I thought, wow, this is really, so your whole family's invested in this.
Yes, I'm sure.
And that is so much pressure. And so they open up their bids and, it's a lot of screaming and then they literally run from the stadium down the streets are like blocked off. It's the whole event. And they run down the street to their house that they got into. And then everybody's there waiting for them. And then it's just a lot of screaming and hugging and taking pictures and putting on, the T-shirts. And it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot. We didn't do any of that. There was no jogging in the streets or any of that. I think I can't even remember how it even happened. I just got a phone call. I just got a phone call later that night.
Well, we went.
It was just.
We stayed. I don't know if this was mandatory or I was just doing it because I was, I was a freshman. I was from out of town, or we stayed in the dorms on campus for the whole Rush week, and we had Rush counselors who were active members of sororities, but we didn't know which ones. And we had a Rush group, and so we went into we had a time, we were supposed to go in the morning into our Rush counselor's room, and she basically gave us our bid. And that was nerve-wracking too. And it turned out that my Rush counselor was in my house, so that was kind of cool. But then we just all met at the house. Then it came with an invitation. It said, meet at the house at 4:00. Bring your stuff to spend the night. We're going to go to the beach and have a barbecue. So we showed up there, and then that was that. It was much more low key.
And the sisterhood began, Brooke. The sisterhood began.
I loved being a Chi Omega. I loved my sorority. It was a very positive experience for me. It's hard to remember a lot. It was like over 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, we learned that Shelby is a Phi Mu. So that's a top tier house.
Yeah.
Isabel is an AD Pi, right?
Yeah.
And then we hear Isabel's inner thoughts, which is the minute I started running down the street, I wanted to go home. And then she's like, but I just thought about my big sister, the person that she was matched with through the process, and that she just focused on her.
I thought she was saying she now has a home.
Well, yeah, I think
talking about the sorority.
Yeah, but she kind of flipped it. I thought she first said, I just wanted to be home. And then, but I started thinking about this person and that I needed to focus on them. And now I have a home. And then I was like, okay, I guess you're okay now, Isabel. I'm just nervous for her.
Well, I saw her. I looked her up on TikTok.
Oh, good. Is she doing well now?
She seems fine.
Oh, good.
I
hope you're doing well, Isabel.
Shelby. She seems fine. She posted a video about addressing the documentary, and she was basically just saying that she. If she had any idea like what this was going to be or anything, she wouldn't have done it, and that she dropped out of it as soon as she found out what it was. She just thought it was kind of like this fun thing. I don't know what they told her, but she's.
I guess Shelby's really distancing herself now.
Oh yeah, she's trying to distance herself and make it clear that But I think that's obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know where this filmmaker found Shelby and Isabel, and I don't know how she found any of these women. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess the moral of the story is it's hard being a young woman and people just want to belong. People just want to be part of something.
Want to belong.
And I will say that because I had a rough freshman year of college and it was hard. And when I got to BU, it was a big, big school. And then once I joined the sorority, it was nice. It made my world smaller. Mm-hmm. And it did make me feel like I belonged somewhere, that I had friends, I had a community. And people do, I think at the core, we as human beings, we are social creatures. And we all just do want to belong and be a part of something. Even the introverts of the world, even the people who don't want tons of friends, it's part of our nature. We all need to feel like we belong to something. So I do understand this. I understand Shelby and Isabel and all of Michaela Holiday. Like, I understand at the core what it is that what you're looking for, what you want, and the desire of it. And I also understand the criticisms of people about sororities and fraternities of like, you have to buy your friends, blah, blah, and all of that kind of stuff too. And I think it's kind of sad because I think it would have been nice to have a really nice documentary to just sort of talk about the pros and cons of what this process is like. Mm-hmm. Because I think there's good and bad in it.
Yeah.
And I don't think she really did a very good job.
No. And, and sororities are not bad. And I kind of walked away from it with this thing. Like, if you didn't know anything about sororities and you watched this, you'd probably, have a negative feeling about it. And I didn't think that was fair either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Supposedly, Netflix is going to be putting out a competing documentary about Bama Rush. That's a rumor. But hopefully they do, and hopefully it's better.
Yeah. Well, they need to. Should.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, that's Bama Rush.
Bama Rush.
Hashtag Bama Rush.
Go Greek.
Yep. Woohoo.
So thank you for listening. And if you enjoy our podcast, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe and also leave us a 5-star rating and review. And if you like Sister Wives, please tune into our weekly Sister Wives recaps.
Every Tuesday.
Yeah, we're doing a rewind. And so we're now almost at the end of season 3. A few more episodes left. And check that out. It comes out every Tuesday if you're interested.
And check us out on social media.
That's right.
We are on Instagram and TikTok at PsychLegalPop. Come follow us.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm going to post a picture that I found.
Oh, Lordy.
From Sorority Rush 1990.
Oh, okay.
Of us in front of the chapter house during Rush.
I don't even think I have any of those things.
Yeah. So I'll post that. You'll get to see how, God, this is so dated. What a dated picture. Okay.
All right.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellows wherever you get your podcasts.